one more. Yeah, so AMTOI is back with another knowledge session, which is cyber security awareness, best practices, and potential solutions. What we need to understand is that cyber security awareness is becoming increasingly important in our digital age, where we rely on technology for many aspects of our daily life. It is essential to be aware of the risks and the threats that exist in the online world and take necessary precautions to protect ourselves from them. So today we have with us Clarence Xavier, who is going to conduct this session. So in his current role with the Abrao Group, Clarence Xavier is accountable for end-to-end for all IT work executed within the company. With a total experience of over 32 years in the IT industry, Clarence has successfully managed business accountable for the delivery of large IT projects and support contracts to clients in Europe and Canada. The responsibility of the current and previous engagements are understanding and leveraging evolving technologies to the benefit of the organization and the clients. Over the last few years, Clarence has been focused on understanding of the evolving threats and the adoption of industry standard countermeasures. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Clarence Xavier. Clarence, all yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Harish. Thank you for the warm introduction. Greetings to Vasan. So, as Harish said, today we are going to look at something that is a very essential part of our uh, not just professional lives, even our own personal lives. Cybersecurity is important because it can affect us both professionally as well as personally. So today, what we are going to do is have an initial session of awareness. What are the various kinds of threats we have? What are the best practices to be followed? And finally, what are the kind of potential solutions we have? Now, I would like to stress here on potential because it is very difficult to give a one size solution that will fit every organization. Every organization has its own uniqueness in terms of its IT infrastructure, all the systems that they use. And therefore, they can be the right solution only after an in-depth study of that particular infrastructure. So in effect, what this means is that for every organization, there has to be a tailor-made solution to protect yourselves from cybersecurity. But there are a lot of best practices and a lot of generic solutions which can be adopted and then tailored or customized to meet the organization's requirements. Now, we will have the questions and answer session at the very end. So please drop in your questions using the chat or the Q&A window, which is there beyond the buttons. So on this note, I will start. Okay, so why is cybersecurity important? Right? From a professional perspective, we as an industry, as a nation, have now moved from major paper-based to major IT-based. These days, there are more and more organizations that are claiming we are 100% paper-free organization, which means you are entirely dependent on your IT systems to conduct and perform your business, not just on a day-to-day, but even on an hour-to-hour basis. And the more the dependence on these IT systems, the more at risk we are as an organization, as an enterprise. Now, unfortunately, what this has resulted in is that there are entities, for want of a better word, who are looking to either damage our business, so it could be a competitor, but these days there are more of these entities who are looking to make a money out of our misfortune, right? By threatening us, by hijacking our systems and expecting a ransom to be paid before our systems can be released. So they are in for a quick buck rather than causing some kind of permanent damage, which is something what we've seen competitors may do. Now, these attacks are also becoming increasingly sophisticated. For every countermeasure the industry takes, the IT industry takes to protect and secure our networks, our applications, our laptops, there are gaps that are still being found by these entities to infiltrate our IT systems and take control. So we need to be aware about how these attacks are exact. Now, as the level of attacks, sophistication of the attacks increases, they are becoming highly technical, and therefore the awareness also is reducing. Most people still have a very low awareness of threats. There have been various campaigns by several industries, by governments, by various media as a social cause to bring awareness on what are these threats that are there. And these threats, as I mentioned at the beginning, can impact our business, it can even impact us personally. So we need to take some safeguards to reduce the impact of this. And why I say reduce, because there's no one who can guarantee that if you do A plus B plus C, you are guaranteed not to be attacked. Attacks can come. We are just trying to make it difficult. So it's like a game, right? We take some measures, they find some gaps, we find those gaps, we improve our safety measures, they find some other gaps, and it's so and so on it goes. So it's a never ending I don't want to use the word battle, but a never ending awareness and set of actions that we need to take to keep ourselves safe from these kind of cyber attacks. So let's look at what are the common kind of threats that are there. So let's just get an awareness first, right? Just in case there are some on this call who have not heard about this or maybe even faced this. Okay. So take a look at the screen. I'll just wait for 10-15 seconds. See if you can find anything that looks strange. Okay, right? So I hope you'll had a good look at this. Very simple made, a real life case. Though it's about 3 years old, but these things still happen. All right. So you saw nice, beautifully formatted mail. Sender appears to be genuine. I stress the word appears in italics because on the face of it, it looks sent from DHL.com, right? There could be other examples of this mail, such as your mailbox is running out of space, your password is expiring, your Office 2019 or whatever version needs to be updated, um, and even your antivirus software subscription expiring in 10 days or 9 days, whatever. So you get different variations of these mails. But you need to be careful of these mails. You need to do some checks before you can act on this mail or make a conclusion that it is genuine, right? So one of the first things that I do, which and I tell everyone is when it says or where it says confirm your address, right? Move your cursor over that. And when you see something strange like this, you know for sure that this is someone out to cause misery for you. Because had it been a genuine mail, you wouldn't have seen a URL like this from googleapis.com. You should have seen something from dhl.com, right? So this immediately should raise alarm bells. And if you're still not convinced, reach out to your IT team. But under any circumstances, don't satisfy your curiosity by clicking on that. That one link could prove to be fatal. So, as I said, there are many mails. So, as an example, if I go back to the previous screen, let's take your mailboxes run your space. What they do is then they will go on to add, click on this link to add more space. Or they will say your password expiring, click on this link to change your password. These are things that you need to be very careful of. There is no harm in taking some time. There is no shame in checking with someone else. Is this a good mail or a bad mail? Right? Better safe than sorry. Let's look at another mail. Now, have a look at this. It's just a picture. There was a few text below. Right. Now, let me just go through this. So, what does spam stand for? Right? I'm sure many of us have heard of spam. So, this is a word that the Americans coined up with uh, back in the late 90s when mails were just picking up and people started sending such kind of promotional advertising or sales campaign mails, which was not required, which is not asked. Now, this particular mail, which I showed you, absolutely genuine, coming in from this organization. I went to the website of this organization by directly typing in the name of the organization in Google, checking to see if it is a real organization or that Google also was, uh, search brought this up as a search result, saw that there were others who had review comments about this organization. So I knew then or concluded that yes, this is the genuine mail, is a genuine organization. But then I have no interest in it. So I just marked it as a junk or spam. Now, the challenge here is you don't know when these mails are genuine, when they are not genuine. The more you get, the more likely you're likely to let your guard slip down. Because at some point of time you might say, okay, let me just click on this, let me see this nice holiday package. And to your bad luck, it may not be an holiday package, but some malware. So, as I put down in my last bullet point, it requires a lot of discipline, nothing else but just discipline and some amount of diligence to make sure Either you delete these emails completely or you pay extreme attention to each of these emails that you're getting. Take the right measures to check and see where that link is pointing to, or if it is some kind of organization like this, check to see if it's a genuine organization by searching it on the internet. Right? If you have the time, you can do it. Otherwise, the best thing is delete. All right. So malware. Now, in the past, it used to be called computer virus. Uh, these days, the word virus has sort of become outdated. People use the word malware because it stands for malicious software. So that's how these two words were sort of coined up to get this single word called malware. The objective of the author of this malware software is try to make a quick buck at your expense, right? And sometimes they could just be doing it for the kicks of it. Sometimes they are in for it for actual money, right? So as an example, and yes, one more point to mention. More often than not, malware when it gets installed in the system happens very silently, and you may not be aware of that not just for days, but for weeks or even months. What this software could be doing is, one or more of the following which I put down. They'll be watching what websites you're visiting, what passwords you're typing in. You never know. One day it could be your internet banking site where you're typing in your user ID and a password, right? But these days, more and more bank sites have this two-factor authentication where they send you an OTP, which you also need to enter. Right? Some could be as sort of quote unquote innocent, slowing down the performance of your PC. Others could be deleting critical files on your PC, which can result in your system not booting up the next time you, sort of uh, restart on a shutdown. The most sinister actions that they take is sending copies of your key data to unknown servers. Sorry for the typo. It should be unknown servers on the dark web, right? I'm sure some of you all may have heard of the dark web, if not most of you all. The dark web are websites that don't have a URL, but just an IP address where you can go and access information that is illegal to access. It could be passwords, it could be bank account numbers. There are so many things, right? And also track your email passwords because once they find out your email passwords, they can send out emails unknowns to you, to your colleagues to say that, okay, uh, please transfer this money to this customer with this account number. And if your colleagues are not careful, that transaction may happen, right? So one of the most simple solutions for this is to use what we call now as total protection software from well-known vendors. Earlier, they were called as AV or antivirus software. So, like I mentioned at the start, uh, attacks have moved on from simple virus. These total protection software will protect you from malware being downloaded, potential phishing attacks, you trying to access some websites that are quote unquote fishy or of dubious background. So uh, they provide you a lot more info protection compared to their predecessors in the late 90s or even in the early 2000s. Coming to ransomware, well, as I put in the first bullet point, that's the most dreaded form of cyber attack. I'm sure all of you all have read these attacks happening, uh, maybe to organizations here in India, or you have come across some of your friends, relatives who may have been the unfortunate victims. So what happens when you get a ransomware? Your entire data is encrypted, and you get a very simple message on the computer asking you to pay X number of dollars, and they give you a bank account where you need to transfer them. That's it. And you're given a limited time to react. Unfortunately, the level of encryption is extremely high, which makes it beyond the capability of most private organizations to try and decrypt and get out of the situation, right? And therefore, there is no solution once you're hit with a ransomware. It is only a tidy up to get back or recover from the ransom attack. And therefore, only discipline and diligence is the answer to protect you. Now, we will go into some of the potential solutions and some of the best practices that will help reduce the threat of this attack. Because, like I said at the beginning, no one is going to give you a guarantee. They can only offer you best practices that will reduce but never eliminate the threat, right? So, let's look at what are the best practices that we should follow. I'm sure a lot of us are following most, if not all of this, but there's no harm in reiterating this and going to this list again, because only when we follow through all these best practices, we have a chance of safely protecting ourselves. Because attacks can sneak in through any one of these gaps that you see over there. So, on that note, let's look at each of this in detail. So, we have passwords, as you know, we've got passwords for each and everything. There are some kind of tools that we've got. When you try and make a password, use a combination of alphabets, numbers, and at least one special character. Try and make one of the alphabets as an uppercase, with the example that I've shown you. Now, many of us make very simple passwords. 1, 2, 3, 4, Kiva name, wife's name, girlfriend's name, mother's name, father's name, whatever, daughter's name, son's name, and put 1, 2, 3. These are all very simple things to guess at. A hacker has got lot of time, lot of patience to try this combination out. So make sure you're putting something that is not in any way related to any names, right? So try and make it as difficult as possible. Note down these passwords on a paper. Don't store it on a computer. That is the biggest mistake one can make. Many people come out with very sophisticated passwords, but then make the mistake of storing it in a file called passwords.txt. And that's it. That's enough. Change your passwords regularly. because you never know. There may be times or situation where you may have shared the password with someone because of a real genuine reason, and that someone may have unknowingly shared their password. So it's always better to keep changing the passwords every 3 to 4 months. I'm sure all of you may have used some system or the other that enforces these password change. You have no choice but to change the password every 3 to 4 months. Then let's look at the don'ts. A lot of this is self-explanatory. We already covered it. So I don't want to repeat this, but at the end of the day, don't make the password simple that can be guessed at, because there are common patterns that people all around the world, not just in India, follow. So very easy for an hacker to, in a few attempts, get the right password and then enter whichever website where you're using this password. So I talked about total protection software, right? Earlier known as antivirus software. So one of the things they do is they alert us and they protect us from the malware and the ransomware being installed on the computer. They protect us from visiting unsafe websites. They protect us from compromised files that may be already infected with the malware from being downloaded or copied onto your computer. So as you know, often we would have taken a pen drive from a colleague, friend, relative, family member, plugged it into our laptop without knowing where this pen drive has been. These pen drives are one of the biggest or the most easiest forms of transportation of these malware and virus. So this total protection software will check even pen drives or your USB hard drives. When they are plugged in, it will scan through whatever files you're copying and block those files that have been affected. Right? They also check if you are connected to an unsecured Wi-Fi network. Now, we have seen there are Wi-Fi networks, especially in the hotels, that are free to use, but they are open, which means anyone can also get into your device. It could be a laptop, it could be even your mobile. So it's best to have some software which is there. I've given the name of few products that I have used. I, for one, would not recommend Kaspersky, but the choice of what you would like to use is left to you. But these, if you see, are the products that are most widely used, most reviewed, and one that the industry considers the safe. Then we come to backups. Backup is basically our insurance policy, right? Now, sometimes no matter what protection measures we take, we can still get hit. And when that happens, we need our data backups to recover. Not having this is as good as committing suicide if you're attacked, because then you are totally lost. You don't have any data of anything to conduct your next step in the business process. So make sure you're backing up to the cloud. There are various cloud solutions these days, OneDrive, Google Drive, Dropbox, or to an external USB drive. Now, it's not enough just to back up. People say, "Oh, I'm backing up, no problem, I'm safe." But please regularly restore random files. See that you are able to restore those files and you are able to open them and access them. It's most important to do this regularly because you never know, especially with the external USB drives, they are at the end of the day a mechanical device that is prone to failure. So make sure you are regularly restoring this. Having said this, today there are more and more external USB drives that are based on solid state memory, which you can read and write to. So those are less prone to mechanical failures, but have a relatively shorter lifespan compared to the traditional spindle-based drives. Right? And finally, at the end, you need to back up every day because there are so many transactions that happen every day in our business. There are many organizations who back up every few minutes, forget it, every hour, every few minutes they back up because even 4 or 5 minutes of data loss can be critical. But you can decide how often you want to back up. But at the very minimum, please back up once a day. Right? There needs to be someone who has a log which they sign to say that yes, backup has happened. We have verified that the backup is happening. Because only then you can hold someone accountable, right? And these logs need to be checked regularly plus randomly to make sure that backups are happening without fail. Then we have unauthorized software. So, as you know, today there's a lot of paid software. There is even more free software available today. A lot of this is genuine software. People have made this software. Uh, Normally, it was started for their personal use, but then they have modified it and made it available to the public out of their own goodwill. You know? But then there are people who unfortunately make software and distribute it with the intention of trying to steal some information, like the malware that I just mentioned earlier on. They may have some usefulness, but unknowns to you, they could be doing a lot of bad things in the background. Right? And you never know when even software like Office 2019 or 2017, whichever the version, there are a lot of versions that are available on free file sharing sites. They will say that no product key required, and they'll say it's hacked. You don't need to install product key. There have been people I've seen who don't hesitate to download that and use it. But you never know what is riding behind them or on top of them. Installing such software comes at great risk. Finally, this is something not many people are aware of, and it's slightly technical. In all of us who use Windows computers may not be applicable for those that use Google or Mac computers. But for those of use Windows computers, when you get your laptop for the first time, so let's say it's a brand new laptop, when you power it on, uh, the manufacturer Dell or HP or Lenovo has a software which runs through, asks you a few configuration information, and finally they tell your laptop is set, you're ready to use it. But when they do them, all of them provide what is called as local admin rights, which means that you can do anything on your laptop. Now, what Windows also has is something called a standard user. So with a standard user, you can do everything. And I mean everything, anything that you would normally use to conduct your business on a day-to-day basis. All right. That standard user has got lower rights or access rights on your device, which means that even if malware were to have sneaked through, they would not have the same rights or what is called as elevated rights to install themselves on the laptop. So, in my own case, myself, as an example, I have given myself the standard user rights because that's enough for my day-to-day work. If I have to install some software on my PC, the system automatically prompts me to enter the password of the admin. So then I know that it's trying to do something which is not expected on a day-to-day basis. Since I know what's the software I'm installing, I enter the admin password so that I can proceed, right? But let's say if a malware were to sneak through and it tries to install itself, it will come across this wall and will not be able to proceed. So this is a very simple step to be done. It requires some amount of effort by your respective IT support guys, but it's something that can greatly help prevent uh, a malware sneaking through or even a ransomware. Okay, another measure is make sure your Windows is getting regularly updated. With Windows 10 and Windows 11, Microsoft has enforced updates to come through, whether you like it or not. At best, you can say defer for 1 week, defer for 2 weeks, defer for 1 month. But beyond that, Windows will download the updates and install them, right? Now, there are also third-party products that you may be using, and the good and the reputed third-party products make sure that they are also getting regularly updated because they could be not just feature enhancements, but even security loopholes that are getting plugged or fixed by their product vendors. So make sure that these are being regularly updated. So you can see I just taken a sample screenshot of Windows 11 and Windows 10. So you can see how the updates have been regularly getting applied on my own laptop. All right. So keep making sure that these updates are regularly being applied so that you know that there is one more protection measure that has been put into place along with the other best practices that I have mentioned. Now, mobile phone security. Today's mobile phones are basically computers, just has a different operating system. Could be Android, could be iOS. They are also equally prone to cyber attacks probably iOS less than Android. But if you're happening to use Android phone, make sure, you know, one, installing total protection software in your device. I have on my own phone McAfee installed to make sure that uh, I'm protecting it as far as I can. I keep my device locked. Whenever patch updates come in from the vendor, I make sure it's updated. I connect to secure Wi-Fi. I don't use any free Wi-Fi's that are there. I'd rather be disconnected from the internet rather than this. There are a lot of software which uh, you know come through in the form of links sent by friends, colleagues, through WhatsApp chats, or sometimes there are some websites that say that says you download this app and you can get more features or benefits. Be careful. I normally, if I were to install an application, I would go to Google Play Store because I know that there are a set of checks that Google have put in place to validate the authenticity of the software and the software vendor itself. Side loading software is basically downloading the software from some site and installing it, which means that we didn't download it through Google Play Store or Apple Play Store, as Apple calls it. Don't jailbreak or root your device. So there are many tips if you see YouTube on the internet how to jailbreak your device or root your device, which means you are bypassing the built-in safety measures that Samsung or Xiaomi or OnePlus, whoever your phone manufacturer is, have put in place, all because you wanted to try and get some extra benefits or features that someone can do. Don't do that, it's not worth it. Because when you do it, you're opening the door for anything and everything to come in. And you never know then what is coming. You know? And I said, as I said, install one of those total protection software. It really doesn't slow down your phone, doesn't cause any impact. I've been having it now for a year and a half, and you know, I haven't found any kind of negative impact by having some kind of software like this on my phone. Finally, we come to something that is really not software related. It's called the non-disclosure agreement. Now, where and why is this useful? I'm sure some of us, if not all of us, have signed non-disclosure agreements with other companies. But it's also important that in today's digital world, data is your asset, right? You need to safeguard your data as much as your system. What if someone were to steal your pricing formula or your key customer database? What do you think the impact would be? There's no impact to your systems. Your systems have all been left safe and secure, right? It's just that copies of data have been made. And these copies of data could have been made by someone within your organization. So it's important that we have some kind of non-disclosure agreement with our employees because it gives you some level of protection of data being misused, being stolen, and cases where they take all the data with them and you're left with nothing, right? This can also have an impact on your organization, and through the form of a non-disclosure agreement, you have some form of control over your data. Right? So now let's look at potential solutions to protect our organization. So what I have done is try to come up with three variations of the solution based on the size of the organization, the number of branches you may have. So if you look at the first scenario, small scale enterprise, single branch, less than 10 staff, a slightly higher level, multiple branches, less than 30 staff, and a medium scale enterprise, multiple branches, less than 300 staff. So these are just guidelines. It need not be that you need to follow these numbers exactly. It could be that you have 12 staff, which is fine. You could look at the first scenario also. So let's look at scenario one, single branch, less than 10 employees. All right. So in such a scenario, you would not have anything like a firewall. You just have a few colleagues sitting in one office. You have a Wi-Fi router to take you to the internet, right? The recommendation is store your data on a third-party cloud service. I've already talked about who they are. You could also store your data on a local drive, but make sure it's then backed up every day to the USB drive. The advantage of storing it on a third-party cloud service is the moment you make a change to your file, it gets immediately synchronized, right? So that in case of an accidental deletion, in case of your laptop crashing, in case of someone hacking into your computer, you still have data on the cloud. And it also forms the means of sharing your data across different colleagues in the same office. But make sure that each and every computer, be it a laptop or a desktop, has got a total protection software installed. And it helps to ensure that all of them have the same brand, same version, so that it's easy to control and get updates, as well as also to negotiate with the vendor for a better package. Let's look at the next scenario. Small scale enterprise, multiple branches uh, with 30 staff or thereabouts. So now here, there are two possible variations. So if you look at the top over here, so if you look over here, right, you can see this is similar to the scenario one. You could have a branch that may be having 4, 5, less than 10 people. All right. So in such a scenario, if you follow whatever I had mentioned in scenario one, where you have the total protection software installed, right? And you store your data in the cloud. You may also be accessing your applications that are on a cloud server, in which case it is recommended to look at cloud-based firewalls. So cloud-based firewall are services provided by different organizations where you don't own a firewall, but rather subscribe to it. There's an initial configuration and a one-time setup charge. So all the internet traffic then in and out comes through this firewall where it checks where the data is coming in so that there is some amount of protection that you can get through the firewall, right? and you pay a subscription charge. Again, based on the vendor, it could be monthly, quarterly, half yearly, or full year, or sometimes 2 year subscription or 3 year subscription. Then you may have a branch that is fairly big, as given in this example. And in this scenario, what you may like to do is have a firewall a device installed within your office. Right? These days, firewalls are not really costly. You can get good firewalls below a lakh. Again, it depends on the configuration and the brand, but definitely good reputed firewalls can easily bought for a figure well under a lakh. So you could have a firewall over here that gives additional protection to all these users. Remember, this is just additional protection because you also installed on these computers the total protection software on these devices. Please don't be under the impression that because I have installed the firewall here, I can afford not to install total protection software. It needs to be there. This is an additional measure to protect the staff and the colleagues over here. Finally, coming to the multi-branch setup organization, MSME multi-branch in its staff thereabouts. So you can see these are now similar to the second scenario in the multi-branch of SSC. So here you have large number of staff in each branch. We therefore want to have a firewall for each of these branches, right? Again, it's always possible that even in this setup, you may have one branch where there are less than 10 staff, right? In which case, you can still follow this approach. Now, while a cloud firewall is one option, there is also another option of having an enterprise level firewall over here to protect your cloud server because of the number of transactions and the volume of data. Some of these cloud firewalls may have constraints in the level of traffic that they can handle before they start to impair or impact the performance. So in such cases, companies take a call and say that they will buy a dedicated firewall which they would install in the same data center so that performance doesn't become an issue. Protection remains the same, right? But it's just that performance is better as the volumes increases. So this is the call that each organization will need to take. So here is an example. Some may have in the head office their server, so you may want to have a dedicated firewall. Some may not have this, but just this solution. So rather than having a cloud firewall, you may just have your own dedicated firewall in the same data center where the server is. So you need to take a call based on the volume of traffic. So here I have put some general recommendations. I think is self-explanatory. And if you look at the last bullet point, what are the factors that would make you decide in favor of cloud versus in-premise firewall? I have provided here. An in-premise firewall means you need to have a better IT, in-house IT capability, so they need to manage it. You could probably outsource this to some vendors, but that's still, you are responsible. Then there's, of course, the cost, and then there's the broadband capacity. Right? So this is something that you need to take into account. And why broadband capacity here? If you were to have a lot of traffic coming in and your broadband connection has got some limitations, then maybe having an in-house firewall or in-house firewall is best, because between the firewall and the server is just your local LAN. If you have better broadband capability or capacity, you could still get to use a cloud-based firewall. So uh, this is a decision that you need to take after doing some kind of study. So finally, if attacked, what next? Because like I said, there is no one who is going to guarantee you that you will not be attacked. And we have seen that multiple organizations, even those abroad, have been attacked, and they are just not some fly-by-night operators. They are well-known, reputed organizations, right? So, what is the resolution? Can only be determined when the type of the scale of attack is known. So, very difficult for anyone to give you a, what shall I say, a generic solution or a set of actions that you need to do, specific set of actions rather. Few points that I could suggest is, if you know which is the infected computer, make sure you're isolating it from the network, because a lot of this malware try to replicate themselves by broadcasting themselves to other computers in the same networking and then infecting them, right? So just like how virus spreads in our body. So we need to make sure that we are cutting this off. Having done that, we look at seeing how we can clean the infected computer. Now, where multiple computers are impacted, look at shutting down your network. So let's take this as an example. Let's say first, some reason branch 2 has been impacted. What most security concerns would do is cut this link, right? Prevent yourselves from being exposed to the other organization. Prevent yourselves from impacting your colleagues in other branches. Isolate yourself at a branch level so that all rectification measures can be taken. Sometimes a computer is beyond redemption, in which case you have no choice but to format and be prepared for the consequential loss of data if any, right? As well as downtime of the user, because he now does not have access to use one. And in case of data loss, this is where the backups come in. Use your backups, could be those on the USB backup device or those stored on the cloud. And finally, change your passwords immediately. Now, having said all this, I believe it is ABIPs, that's the Ministry of IT, uh, who expects when there is such security attacks, especially for an organization above a certain level, to report this. So you have various channels through which you can report it. You could also report this and see if they could provide any support or assistance. Again, based on the type and the scale of the attack, the final solution can be provided. So, uh, difficult for anyone to say upper front, what is the kind of specific steps you need to take without knowing what is the type and the scale of that attack. Right? So, on this note, I come to my conclusion. You can never be too safe. These are age-old sayings, and this applies here also. Better to err on the side of caution. Better to have more measures than less measures. New form of threats appear regularly, so don't take whatever I said as the end all. There could be new threats coming in through new channels. So try and keep yourselves informed. There are a lot of articles that get published, and also a lot of awareness programs that are shared. Please take some time off regularly to keep yourselves abreast. And the main thing is continuously check. Once you come up with some kind of rules or policy, keep checking the level of compliance. Do not take for granted that having published a set of rules or a policy, your employees are following it. Trust me, in any organization, even the multi-billion dollar MNCs, there will be and there are employees who take things easy. And even over there, there is continuous levels of compliance checks and very strict actions taken where deviations are found. Same thing can happen with us. So please keep checking the level of compliance. Sometimes it may not be deliberate, but just pure ignorance. And, you know, that could be the weak link in the entire difference. So there's no harm in checking and educating those that are not compliant. Now, of course, they could be repeat offenders, and you know where and how to take care of such cases. So, with that, I come to the end of my questions. I now open myself up for any questions that are there.
Uh, Thanks, Clarence. Uh, as
Welcome.
as usual, you have always been at your best. It's a very educative and knowledgeable session with a lot of new things from what we learned from you during our last session about a year ago.
Yes.
We have a few questions. Uh, okay, one of them is from Mr. Vishwendra Singh. We are using OneDrive, but facing a lot of issues during backup and restore.
Okay. The name of the gentleman,
Vishwendra Singh.
Vishwendra Singh. So, Mr. Vishwendra, see, these could be several reasons. One is either OneDrive is not properly set up. I personally am using OneDrive now for the last 6 months, working flawlessly for me. So it could be either your internet is patchy or there is something wrong on your laptop which is causing OneDrive not to work uh, properly. I would suggest, therefore, speak with your local IT support person and, if necessary, maybe engage an external consultant who will be able to quickly solve this for you. Trust me, it shouldn't take much time to fix the issue once we know what is the problem.
Okay, thank you. Next question from Mr. Sitaram. It says, how about Quick Heal as a tool to protect?
Um, so I've heard about this tool, Quick Heal. Um, I really don't know how good it is. Like I said, I don't want to say that only these are the more well-known products. If you feel that quick heal is good, I would say go ahead and use it. What I normally do is I look at independent reviewers like PCMagazine.com, right? Who give an unbiased feedback after reviewing all these products. Look at such kind of reviews and then take a call.
Okay, thank you. Next question from Albertino. Sir, if we upload or share file on drive, is that safe? Also, we upload file on our drive. Is that okay?
Uh, on our drive, meaning I'm assuming that it is on some kind of cloud drive, could be
Correct.
Google Drive
What
or
we
OneDrive.
think so.
Yes, it's safe. In the past, that was a very valid question. People did not feel safe. I was also in that same, shall I say, boat where I was also questioning the safety of these uh, entities that were offering cloud-based storage solutions. A lot of these organizations over the last uh, 1.5 decades have invested a lot of money in securing your data and my data because their reputation is at stake, their business is impacted if there is a leak. And they also provide some advantages like, your data is replicated across maybe two locations. So even if one site of theirs were to be out of action, right? Let's say an earthquake in one location, so that data center is taken out. Your data is still accessible from another data center relatively close by. So these are some of the advantages you can get when compared to storing your data locally, right? And it's not that if I don't have internet, I can't access my data. No, you can still access your data, but probably it will not be synchronized or updated with the cloud. And as soon as you get your internet connection back, the softwares will automatically synchronize it. You're on mute, Vasant.
Sorry. Mr. Himanshu is asking, please advise safest antivirus for computers, which covers and keeps all my data safe.
So, Mr. Himachal, like I said, there are 4 to 5 products. All are equally good. If you see uh, any of these independent reviews, what it will basically come down to is the cost. In terms of features, in terms of advantages, benefits, protection, they're all more or less the same, right? Uh, at the end of the day, it's probably the price that may play a difference uh, in you reaching a decision.
Okay. Mr. Kishore wants to know what is MEIT.
MEIT, I think it is, if I forget, I always forget what the E stands for. Um, but I believe, it is Minister of Information Technology, and I forget the word. E. Let me just Google it up and tell you, please.
Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology.
Yes.
It's electronics and
Though,
information.
yeah, though I do not know why electronics is still there in IT.
Okay.
And yeah, that was how the industry grew, saying that electronics and IT are the same, but now they are miles apart.
Okay. Mr. Mahesh Shah wants to know what is the best practice for protecting ransomware encryption.
So there is no one practice, Mr. Mahesh. It's a combination of all that you have seen on this slide or in this presentation, uh, right? And there could be other consultants who may ask you to take some additional measures. By all means, go and do that. But there is no one sort of magic wand. It says that if I wave this, I'm protected. You need to take all these measures. And like I said, you know, the weakest link could be anywhere. You never know where.
Mr. Vishwendra has come back with one more question. Sir,
Yeah.
is any possibility of copying data from one drive to the local drive directly without downloading from portal?
I don't know if I've understood the question clearly. So let me just try and answer it the way I've understood. Most of these cloud storage solutions, OneDrive, Google Drive, or even Dropbox, right? They offer you two ways to access your files on the cloud. All of them have a web-based interface where you go into the browser and, for example, type onedrive.microsoft.com, right? Or drive.google.com. You need to sign in and then you get access to your data. Then you can select a file and say download. So that's one way. They also provide you a software which you can install on your PC. And when you do that, this software will create a folder on your PC so that using File Explorer, you can go and access all your files, make updates to your files without the need to visit or see your browser. So I hope that answers the question that he had.
Uh,
If not, you could always reach out to me and I will try and help you out.
Thank you. There's an anonymous attendee. He wants to know, in mobile, there is an inbuilt security. Is that enough for the to cover all the security?
See, I perfectly understood what the question is. Now, each vendor, phone manufacturer, come out with their own security solution, right? Samsung has got their own, OnePlus has got their own, Xiaomi's got their own, and so on and so forth. How good or how robust they are, I really don't know. I'd rather go with a vendor who has got a solution that works across different devices. It could be laptops, it could be tabs, it could be phones, and some who are full time into this business. So, like say McAfee, security is their only business, so they can't afford to make mistakes. A company like Samsung, security is yes, it needs to be there, but then they've got various other, uh, shall I say, interests, right? So, how much of investment they are putting on this security software? What happens if it still sneaks through? Do they take responsibility or accountability? You know, these are the questions you need to think of. Yeah. So I have personally not relied on the products manufactured security solution. I installed McAfee's total protection solution on my phone.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sandesh wants to know, which cloud storage do you recommend? Public cloud like Azure, Amazon, or private cloud like CTRL, etc.?
I think all are equally good. CTRLS, if that's what he's referring to, or Amazon or Azure. If you see CTRLS, they offer you private cloud. They also offer you hosting on again in turn on Amazon or Azure. Um, they are all equally good. So again, based on your usage, your cost would be the determining factor in making the decision.
Okay, I think you've done with the questions. Okay, as a layman, I have a question wherein I receive a lot of emails from a lot of my clients, carrier, but most of them, many a times I see that it shows as a spam or it goes into the spam box. Why is it so?
So, again, it's based on your email server. Now, some of these email servers have a spam software where they look for a particular whitelist,
Okay.
right? So, for example, let's say abrogroup.com is not there on the whitelist. It will treat this as suspect spam,
Okay.
right? So in these cases, you need to speak with your email service provider and say, please whitelist this domain. I know that this domain, I know this domain very well. They are my business partners. They are my customers. I have no uh, concerns about them, right? When you whitelist, if the software is designed properly, it should then come into your inbox rather than going to your junk folder or marking it as spam.
So you mean to say this is a general issue with each individual server?
Yes, yes, it can definitely happen with everyone,
Okay.
right?
Thank you. Okay, one last question.
Great.
People say that, okay, we have Samsung, we have various operators. Now, when we talk about Apple, they say that it's 100% security proof and it does not require any antivirus. Again, a layman question. It's your
See,
comment.
having not used Apple device, I cannot vouch for how safe or how secure it is. But yes, this is one of the thing all Apple disciples say that it's very safe, very secure. But you still see these manufacturers. Sorry, let me just take a step back. The vendors of total protection software, McAfee or Semantic or Norton or Total Micro, they offer their products even for Apple devices. So one that then begs the question why it is so safe. I leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. I think I'm done with the questions. Back to you, Harish. Uh,
Thank you, Vasant. Thank you, Clarence. That was a
Welcome.
good session. And I'm sure all our participants would go back in a more, you know, how do you put it, like a more secured mind and understanding. What we've understood over this whole thing was that cybersecurity awareness involves, educating oneself about various forms of cyber attacks, such as phishing, malware, ransomware, and it's also important to know how to recognize and avoid these attacks by not clicking on suspicious links, verifying authenticity of emails, websites. The other aspect that you picked up was the cybersecurity awareness is understanding the importance of keeping software and devices up to date, as well as regularly backing up important data. And I'm sure this can help us prevent data loss and damage if there is a cyber attack. Also crucial to be mindful of the information we share online, such as personal information, login credentials, because I'm sure cyber criminals can use this information to steal identities and
Exactly.
access sensitive information. So it is important to limit the amount of personal information that we share online and use, you know, more secure methods of communication. So in summary, cybersecurity awareness is about being vigilant and proactive in protecting oneself. And by staying informed, taking necessary precautions, and following best practices, I'm sure we can ensure safer and more secure online experience. Now, that is what I have been able to gather from, what you put forward today. So let me thank you on behalf of AMTOI for being here and
My
helping
pleasure.
us understand what cybersecurity is all about. I thank all the participants who took time out from their, especially being a Wednesday and during working hours. And I thank all the owners of the company, the management who made sure that, they and their people and their team could join to be here and understand the importance of something like this. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day ahead. And
And
look, we,
just
we will
one,
look forward to you joining us.
yeah,
Yes,
one
go
point
ahead,
is,
Clarence.
Harish, I have put my email address on the chat. So if anyone has any follow-up questions or questions very specific to the organization, they can reach out to me. I'll just repeat it's Clarence underscore Xavier at
So
abrogroup.com.
usually,
Something like that.
Clarence, usually we get this onto our info at AMTOI
Yeah,
so that
okay.
we can collate all the questions and send it to you because it'll be difficult for you to keep getting questions on an ad hoc basis.
Yeah, I know.
So the
Sometimes these questions
secretariat
come in a
usually,
week later also.
yeah. So, however, people are more than welcome to send it directly to you or to info at
Yeah.
amtoy.org, where we will collate all of them and send it to Clarence, who will be happy to answer all our questions. So looking forward to all of the participants to joining us in our next knowledge session, which is coming in very soon. And we'll have a series of them coming in. So be prepared that we will be there on your screen almost every 2 weeks, maybe.
Yes,
Yes.
every 2 weeks.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
Take care.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Clarence.
Thank you
Yeah,
all.
Thanks.
everyone. Thank you.